When I was a boy back in Bridgeport in 1969, let's see, I would have been about 14 years old, and I was writing weekly articles on Bridgeport Township history for the newspaper there, which was called the Bridgeport Future. For the newspaper's first anniversary in August of 1969, they had commissioned me to write the complete anniversary issue of Bridgeport history from its beginnings to the then present 1969. I only bring this up for this video because in my research the name Gardner D. Williams popped up fairly frequently and prominently. Well, with the passing of decades, I had forgotten all about Mr. Williams, and that is until recently when I acquired a collection of tokens and metal tags from my good friend Gil Alburg. One of these pieces I got from him is a triangular metal tag, and I think it might be brass, I'm not sure of the metal. And the point at the top is broken off, and it is in rather rough shape from its many years in the ground. Nonetheless, Gil had a sketchy history of the piece, which was the mention of one name really caught my attention. That name is Gardner D. Williams. The tag is marked 30 WWCO. Gil dug it where a lumber mill had burned down long ago, and this piece very much looks as though it had gone through a fire. I don't know what the number 30 stood for, but the WWCO was a shortened version of the mill's name, which was Williams and Williams Company. And the following is the information that Gil presented me with when I acquired the piece. He said the lumber mill was the first mill in Saginaw, and it was situated on Saginaw's west side, of course, by the river. It was organized by Harry Williams, who was the uncle of Gardner, and Gardner's brother Ephraim. They eventually took over the mill from their uncle. Also, according to Gil, the equipment for the mill was brought from Detroit on a steamship named the Walk on the Water. Now, in 1827, Gardner Williams came to live in Saginaw. Can you even begin to imagine Saginaw in that year? I don't think so. This was only 5 years after Fort Saginaw had been abandoned due basically to the mosquitoes carrying diseases, and these mosquitoes were very abundant due to the fact that most of Saginaw area was swampland. If you were walking on Court, Michigan, Niagara, Hamilton, you'd been basically walking through a swamp. The area's main inhabitants, other than the insects, of course, were Native American Indians. And by the way, this was less than 10 years after this Treaty of Saginaw was signed, basically raping the Indians and seizing a large parcel of the land which they had hunted and lived on for many, many generations. For details on the treaty and the early white occupation of this area, please see parts 1 and 2 of my YouTube video series called Indians, Jacks, and Pines. Suffice it to say, the Saginaw area was rough, wild, and suited only for the occupation of the Indians and some very hardy European stock. For me, the metal tag that Gil recovered from the mill site many years ago now represents all of that and more. So once again, the tag is a very historic piece. I would like to add the following information on Gardner Williams, which I came across on a website maintained by the Genealogy Trails History Group. The following is a brief history of Mr. Williams. The Honorable Gardner D. Williams was a descendant of a Welsh family. His ancestor, Robert Williams, settled in Roxbury, Massachusetts in 1638, only 18 years after the arrival of the Mayflower. The branch of the family from which Judge Gardner Williams descended remained in Roxbury for 5 generations. His father, Oliver Williams, moved to Concord, Massachusetts about 1794, and Oliver Williams came to Detroit in 1807, leaving his family in Concord. Oliver engaged in business at Detroit as a merchant and was one of the largest merchants in Detroit. At one time, Oliver Williams brought from Boston $64,000 in goods for his business, and that was no small amount of money back at that time. Heck, it wouldn't be to me at this time. About the year 1811, he built a sloop named the Friends Goodwill on board of which he visited Mackinac in 1812. At Mackinac, the Friends Goodwill was chartered by the government to go to Chicago for furs. Remember, at that time, furs were big industry in the Great Lakes area because they were so abundant. He proceeded to that place under charter and took board 99 packs of furs belonging to the government, besides a quantity of his own. On his return voyage, his vessel was captured by the British at Mackinac, that post having capitulated in his absence. The capture was effected by a ruse of the enemy. On approaching the enemy, Mr. Williams saw the American flag flying, and a sentry in an American uniform was on guard, and had no suspicion that the post had changed hands. He lost his cargo, and it is little to the credit of the government that it never was made up to him. The loss was his. The British changed the name of the vessel to the Little Belt, and it was one of the vessels captured by Commodore Perry in the Battle of Lake Erie. The family of Oliver Williams, including Gardner D., arrived at Detroit November 5, 1815, where they continued to reside until 1819, at which time they went to Silver Lake in Oakland County, being among the first to settle in that now populous and thriving county. In 1827, Judge Gardner Williams, accompanying his brother Ephraim L., went to Saginaw and engaged for the American Fur Company in the fur trade. Here he continued to reside until his death on December 10, 1858. During his eventful life, he held several important offices. He was a member of the first convention to form a constitution for the state of Michigan. And besides all that, Gardner Williams was a member of each branch of the state's legislature, commissioner of the internal improvements, county judge, and treasurer of Saginaw County. He was the first mayor of the city of Saginaw. And of course, we can add to this list of accomplishments being the owner of Saginaw's first lumber mill, WWCO, as on the metal tag. I also want to point out, just real quickly, the association with the American Fur Company, which was a large organization throughout the northern part of what would be the United States, securing furs from trappers and from Native American Indians. And they had a post here at Saginaw. So all of this came to my mind and to this video by way of a metal tag Gil Alburg dug up after his metal detector sounded loudly. Well, hey, thanks for stopping by. Have an awesome and blessed evening. I hope you enjoyed this. It's a small but interesting chapter in the history of not only Michigan, but of Saginaw County and Saginaw City. Have a great day. God bless.